finding the style is essential. And sometimes it's just taking the essence of a style and using it. Potts singing to her little boy, Chip, telling him his story. Tale as old as time.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today for a very special event. Today we are joined by Mr. Alan Menken, one of the most iconic and beloved composers of our time. Menken's work includes the musicals The Little Shop of Horrors, Newsies and Sister Act, as well as some of Disney's most cherished films, including The Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, Tangled, Enchanted, Hercules, Pocahontas and The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Menken is one of the most decorated composers of all time, with 8 Oscars, 11 Grammy Awards, a Tony and an Emmy, making him one of only a handful to have achieved EGOT status. Menken's extraordinary contributions to the Global Songbook have made him a legend of the industry, who has shaped the lives of millions across the world. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Alan Menken.
Your mic wasn't on. Is this on?
Yes.
Let's get this out of the way. Just a little. What do I want to play now? Thank you, thank you. I think. Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. God,
Thank you for that.
This is a deep chair. My feet don't even touch the ground.
Thank you for that. I think that's already a highlight of my time here at Oxford.
Well, my pleasure, thank you.
So I'd like to begin by exploring your earliest experiences with music. Can you share your first and early exposures to music?
You know, I remember when I was a kid, when my parents first took me to see Fantasia. And the marriage of music with the animation and with the story and with everything involved with that was just absolutely captivating to me. And I made my parents buy me, classical Beethoven's Sixth Symphony and Tchaikovsky, and so that was one huge influence. Also, my parents loved Broadway shows. So, of course, as I got older, the last thing I wanted to do was ever think I'd write a Broadway show. I mean, But fact is, musicals were incredible growing up. And then, so those are the earliest. Can I take my coat off because it's hot in here? I apologize. Is this too informal or is it okay?
It's perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, and can you tell us about the time when you first began composing music?
I basically started composing because I hated to practice piano. And I would sit and start to learn something and I go, oh, I don't want I have to read the notes, and so I just sort of make up my own version of that, and for an hour, and my parents thought I was actually learning the pieces, and my piano teacher said, Alan's not learning the pieces. He said, well, he's playing for an hour, and I think we should encourage this. So I wrote little pieces, basically, and I didn't take it seriously as a potential career because I knew all the Menkens were dentists. My father was a dentist. My grandfather was a dentist. My father's brother was an orthodontist, but in the family. My mother's sister's husband was a dentist. My father's sister's husband was a dentist. My cousins were, it was just dentists everywhere. I said, well, I guess my future's going to be sticking my hands in people's mouths. But luckily, I stuck my notes in people's mouths. So, but I started really writing music when it sort of became part of our generation. Starting with the Bob Dylan and the Beatles and the Stones, and I basically, that's what started me writing songs. And then to appease my parents, who were terrified because I was a horrible student at NYU, I joined this thing called the BMI Musical Theater Workshop. And I discovered somehow in writing musicals, there was this incredibly rich art form that was so collaborative and gave the opportunity to move just beyond pulling songs out of my head or my heart, which is you want to do anyway, but also filtering it through a time, through a story, through characters. And that's really, and then I started writing scores for films, basically to protect my songs. I wanted to, when we did Little Mermaid, Howard said, you have to score this. Howard Ashman said, I don't know how to do that. He said, well, you've got to. And I learned how to do it. And so Little Mermaid was my first attempt at a score. Ironically, it won me an Oscar, but I mean, it was a very naive, very simple score, but it worked, obviously.
You mentioned Howard Ashman, and you had a long and successful collaboration with him. Could you tell us a little bit about Howard and your work with him?
Howard was looking for a collaborator. He had his own theater, the WPA Theater in New York. Howard and Kyle Rennick and a guy named Hawk, Edward T. Gianfresco, and they all graduated from college and they started this theater called the WPA Theater. And he got the rights to do an equity showcase of a Kurt Vonnegut novella, God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. He was looking for a composer, and we met, and he asked me to work with him. Howard had never actually, as far as I had never written a musical as a lyricist before, and in fact, originally, Howard wasn't the lyricist on Rosewater. It was actually a guy named Dennis Green, who Howard had worked with once before when he wrote the book for a musical called Dream Stuff, which is at the Astor Place Theater. But you could tell he just wanted to write lyrics. And the collaboration blossomed through Rosewater, and then of course took off with Little Shop of Horrors. Howard was brilliant. He really understood the interface between pop styles or any musical styles and the way to use them dramatically through characters. And he was incredibly passionate just fiercely passionate about what he wanted. And I was very complete as a songwriter before I met Howard. I wrote music and lyrics, and I felt like I didn't, need any. I thought, you know what? When I started working with Howard, I thought I'll help him out because it's his first time writing lyrics, so. And I remember the first song he put in front of me was called "I, Elliot Rosewater," which was actually the finale song from God. Do any of you know God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater? Nobody. Oh God, it's out there. There's a soundtrack. But anyway. I said, well, you might want to, and I just remember his finger going over my shoulder and going, no, just do it like that. Just tell it like that. I go, oh, okay. And that sort of set the tone of our collaboration. He was so passionate, and I stepped back, and we really did become a marriage of our styles. I was very much felt like a catalyst for Howard. And as we know, it was a tragically short story, although incredibly intense. We wrote 4 shows together, one incomplete one. and then with Aladdin. He only lived to see two of those. He never lived to see Beauty or Aladdin. And it's just, the sensation of knowing what he has meant to the world and to see what he missed. Unless you believe, and I kind of believe it on some other level, I hope he feels it somewhere. It's incredible. It's a miracle, and you don't know those things are happening until you're in it, and then you watch how the effect it has on the world. So.
And it was through Howard Ashman that you were approached by Disney. How did you feel about the opportunity? What did Disney mean to you at that time?
Well, forgetting about that I grew up with the Disney films. I loved them. After Little Shop of Horrors, I was working on a show called Kicks, the Showgirl musical, which I was writing with a man named Tom Ian. Tom was the writer of Dreamgirls, book and lyrics. Howard is working with Marvin Hamlish on a musical called Smile, and so we were not together as collaborators. And at that time, there was this virus that was a nightmare. It was, all these incredibly talented, mostly young men, were just being consumed by it and dying. And it was a total nightmare. I assumed Howard was okay, but we were losing so many people. And my daughter Anna had been born, and Janice and I were out. We had this farm in Pennsylvania, and I would get out there. It would be this blessing to be there, but there was this nightmare around us of this. First of all, this virus we didn't know was going to destroy the whole world. And I would sit with Anna, and we put in like Winnie the Pooh, because the Disney films had just come out on VHS tapes. I was watching Winnie the Pooh or Cinderella or Dumbo or Pinocchio, and I couldn't watch the news. I couldn't watch action adventure. I couldn't watch sitcoms. It was just too painful because of what was happening. It was the one thing I could be with, and it just brought back A, the memories of my childhood, and B, it was the one safe space in the world. It just felt that way. And then I get a call from Howard saying, "Oh, you want to work on a Disney animated movie?" It's like, and my first reaction was, I'm going to work again with Howard. And then, Disney. It was amazing at the very beginning. Roy Disney, who was the son of his father was Roy, also Walt's brother. His main agenda was he wanted animation to be reanimated, no pun intended, to be revived in its truest sense. And that was what we were all involved with. And it was like this amazing mission to bring back this incredibly treasured form. We didn't know that the effect it would have, but when Little Mermaid was finally done and it was released, there was this sense of people, oh my God, this is back. Something's back that was lost. And so it was this amazing sense of what an incredible thing. And then, we had the Oscars and we won. It was incredible. And then literally that night, Howard said to me, "Well, we got to have a talk." And, and somehow you block out what you don't want to hear, I guess, or don't want to know. And I didn't think about it. He said, we had this hiatal hernia, and that's why this was happening or that was happening. And I said, "Oh, okay." But, I found that he had AIDS. And we were in the middle of this churning creative process, creating these incredible classics. He wanted to do Newsies. Newsies was another film, a live-action film that came out in the midst of the animateds. But he didn't have the strength to do it. And it was a very surreal time. And so it's kind of like the flame of Howard's life became a flame that just created a miracle at Disney and in the world. We're all blessed that he was here. Oh, you can vault. I'm going to start crying. Okay, so.
I'd now like to talk about your songwriting process. So what is your process of moving a story into a musical? How do you bring the songs to life?
Well, the first thing, you look at the storyline itself, and you go, does it sing? And you look, I will talk in formulas, and God knows every formula is meant to be broken. But basically, musicals are about some sort of a journey of wanting something passionately and getting it, or again, maybe not, but it's that is the arc of a musical, is overcoming to get something you care so much about. Is there a protagonist in the story that has that arc, or is there a way to shape it? Is there a world in that musical that sings and sings in a unique way? Because there are musicals that I think, stories that make wonderful musicals that I turned down because I had already done something like it. I mean, I was asked to do Hairspray. I said, I already did Little Shop of Horrors. They're very close to each other. And Mark Shaman did an amazing job with Hairspray. But it's that each one is a opportunity to go into a world and musically give it a treatment. It doesn't have to be a literal treatment of that world or literal reflection of that world, but it should be taking you into an experience in a world that you want to be in, and the score is informing you about the point of view, about the emotional attitude, about the context, about the period, about the whole journey. And how did I start with? Okay, so my process. This is also part of my process. I'm so ADHD, so I just get lost in blah, blah, blah. So the process is, all right, so this is the world. What's the structure? I don't want to write a note until I've sat down with my collaborator. We figure out, this is the world, this is the story, this is how we meet, let's structure how the songs can drive the story. Very important, how the songs can drive the story. And that was sort of unique, well, not unique, but that's, to me, the way to write the best musical. Because musicals are not intrinsically a narrative form where it's driven by narrative. It's actually driven by an emotional journey, and you adapt the narrative in the best possible way to let the songs drive that story. And so we spend sometimes weeks, months putting together a structure, and then we go, okay, let's do these 2 or 3 songs first. See how it feels, see how it sounds, and then go, whoa, that feels right. And sometimes you do it totally. When I first wrote Little Shop, we started with, there was first, when it's time to pick a pet flower, who's the shrub we love? Who's our potted plant of the hour? Who's our bush when push comes to shove? Who rakes in that cash, those kudos? Look, ma, who came through? Not Audrey Hepburn or Audrey Wood. The both those ladies are well and good. The dismal failures beside the beautiful Audrey too. And the pods would go, Audrey, Audrey, Audrey too. By the way, those who are coming to the concert may hear some of this stuff again, tomorrow night. But so I apologize if you might hear it twice. Or feed me, I'm hungry. Feed me, I'm starving. Feed me, I'm fading and fast. Feed me. So. And it was like, those were into the trash. I knew that the idea of this Faustian tale about, this nerdy guy, Seymour Krelborn, who basically got all of his dreams because he got a man-eating plant, was a brilliant idea. But it wasn't going to be like, true to the Corman movie. And one day Howard came in and said, I think it's The Dark Side of Grease. And I remember he brought in some records by the Ronettes, and we were listening to all these girl groups, and we went, oh man. And then we wrote that, you know how it goes, Little Shop of Horrors. But finding the vocabulary was everything. And then you shape it. And every musical is like a little machine that you're creating, and you put it in the piece, you go, get rid of it, put something else in. But you have to feel it, that you're always ahead of the audience and always moving it forward. And we just get in the room and write the songs. I was blessed that Howard wrote the book, and so economically. Little Shop is 85 minutes long. When you have these scripts that are like these Samuel, you cannot open a page in that script without seeing the capital letters of song lyrics. Literally, that's how much the songs are threaded through. So that was so characteristic of him. And of course, the animated musicals have a form of their own, but it's always get the form of what it is, and then take it song by song. Every song moving story forward. Always being someplace else at the end of the song than where you were at the beginning. And that's the process. And sometimes you go through all that process and you can spend a year on it, and it's not good. Or sometimes it's not good, and then 10 years later, all of a sudden, oh, it is good. That was, something like Newsies, which was an enormous flop. You missed my Razzie Award. I don't have an EGOT. I have a REGOT. Yes, I'm very proud of that Razzie Award.
Thank you. And how do you go about composing music from different genres? You've done gospel, classical, folk rock. Do you immerse yourself in the particular musical style you've chosen?
Yeah. Look, it is a gift that I have, but to basically, yes, immerse myself to a degree in various songs or various styles, and my gut will say that's where you want to go, and basically forming sort of a mold, dramaturgical mold of the song as you want it to be. And then once you have that specific, then start filling it with possibilities until you go, oh, that's perfect. Sorry, the question was what again? Sorry.
So how you go about composing music from different genres?
And every genre is so huge. In terms of using music as a specific vocabulary is one of the things I've learned so much in my work with Howard. And I've always done it since that same way. And that specificity, I think at first I thought, well, this would be limiting. I feel like I'm imitating. But in fact, it's pastiche. You're taking the essence of a style and using it. And the exceptions usually will be, to a degree, maybe the ballads, but even there's specifics in all of them. I mean, obviously, if you go to Little Shop of Horrors, you get bubblegum rock and roll, right? We all know what that is, and the world it belongs to, and we wanted the tone of Little Shop to basically be the tone of those beach blanket horror movies that would basically have the beast coming up from the sand and oh, but it was also some of Phil Spector's almost apocalyptic rock and roll and sort of end of the world kind of feeling of that. None of that is like specific, like, oh, but you feel it. That's how you want to pull people, that's how I want to. It was a musical, is that sense of, you want them to feel where it needs to go. With Little Mermaid, I started with water flowing. But there's also a sea shanty. So I go, heave-ho, very specific, and just telling the tale. Ursula, and we were thinking of divine, but also that sense of German cabaret. I admit, and of course Calypso. So genre, being specific with genre, then you get to beauty. And you take, first of all, the basic town, which is like a Bavarian town, and very classical. And you get to Gaston, we wanted something like a Sigmund Romberg drinking song. Obviously, with Be Our Guest, we wanted to do a Maurice Chevalier kind of French musical because it's Lumiere, but again, specific to that character. Very grand and over the top. And beauty, it's a Mrs. Potts singing to her little boy, Chip, telling him his story. Tale as old as time, true as it can be, very measured. It's real, and it has a sense of time with it. With Aladdin, it was, rather than going Arab music or Middle Eastern music, it was let's utilize the Hollywood version of the mysterious East. So where we start with, this is, I guess, it's a little exaggerated. But you get to like, Friend Like Me, we're totally in Fat Swallow wrote songs like, your feet's too big, oh mama, yeah, your feet too big. It's a stride piano, and so oh my, or Prince Ali, Ali Ababa. And then with A Whole New World, that was my first, I was in a new collaboration then with Tim. And that was just the sense of that magic carpet. In every case, it's these specifics. When Stephen Schwartz and I were writing Colors of the Wind, we wanted to start with American Indian drums. You think I'm an ignorant savage, been in so many places, I guess it must be so. And then get into this more in the wind. Some stories allow for certain kinds of songs, some don't. We could never figure out how to get a comedy song into Pocahontas. We did try. We tried with Grandmother Willow, and it was the worst comedy song ever. It was awful. With Hunchback, it was just first the bells. And then just this street musician telling a story. Morning in Paris, the city awakes to the bells of Notre Dame. And then once you find the genre, then again, you massage it gently, but you figure out how you expand it. With Hercules, at first I thought John Musker and Ron Clements they want to do it gospel? I was picturing something that was going to be very classical, like Candide or something. That's Leonard Bernstein. But no, they wanted, gospel, and so, and it worked. Bless my soul, Herc was on a roll. Or back when the world was new, the planet Earth was down on its luck, and everywhere gigantic roots called titans ran amok. Then there was Home on the Range. Well, yes, then there was Home on the Range. It was a Western. Actually, the songs were very specific, very Western. I'm very proud of, no, proud, no. I enjoyed those songs. I mean, I got, am I just going, do you want to ask more questions? I got to get Randy Quaid yodeling. I mean, how many people can say that, you know? And then Enchanted was, that was, you know, a wink at Disney and a wink at sort of at me, but it was those different eras. It was so much fun to do that. And then finally, because the last one I did with Disney was Tangled, where when I thought about Rapunzel, I thought just folk rock, especially Joni Mitchell, you know, and that style. So it's very guitar driven. But in each of my scores, or with Sister Act, when I did that stage musical, people that already have so many Motown musicals said, why can't we make this in, nobody has really plumbed the disco era, the 70s. And that really, I think, even gave it more of an edge of the conflict between the sacred and the profane, so to speak. And that was so much fun. But finding this style is essential. And sometimes it just can back. I did a musical called Leap of Faith, which was all gospel, and it was all takes place within a gospel revival tent. It came in too soon. It didn't really work. And I think also as a genre, it was a little, sort of been overplayed. But in every case, you try to find the vocabulary, try to work with it and do some exploration and see what's there.
Mm-hmm. And you work with lyricists, and you've worked with a few lyricists. How did the music and lyrics come together in a collaboration?
I usually write music first, because I think it makes for more interesting lyrics if I can give just a musical form that will challenge a lyricist a bit more. And but my fingers won't go on the piano, and their, you know, pen won't go to the paper or whatever, until we figured out where's it in the story, what leads into it, even the lines that lead into it, how does all the singing start, and why does the singing start? Why are we going to, you know, allow someone to sing to us? Like, oh, stop it. But you have to find just the right moment, and then how do you move the story forward and have all that architecture, and then a lyric will come in, and you could say, that's brilliant, or, I mean, sometimes Howard, one amazing thing about him, if you look at the song Dentist or Gaston, Howard is beating his character senseless with his own stupidity, and it's delightful, it's incredible. He just was so good at that. But every song has got to have a device that goes, why am I listening to the song and why am I enjoying the song? Again, it can't just be narrative in my world. Narrative with music under it. There's just, the narrative is telling you the story and the music's nice. Those are shows that bore me. Now, I mean, if you look at a show like Sweeney Todd, the gestalt of that music and how the music has got to define the world that you're in with the musical. And then the lyrics will flesh that out and totally bring it to life. You can't have one without the other. I mean, the music alone won't be enough. The lyric alone won't be enough. And there are some lyricists who are just, and each collaboration is also, of course, a marriage where you're learning each other's strengths and limitations, and you're guiding your collaborator. And so another thing I love about musicals is collaboration, because you get all that feedback, and you learn never to be precious with your own work, ever. It's just, going to sink the show if you do that.
Thank you. So my final few questions before we go to audience questions, we'll turn to your favourite music and your influences. So of all your scores and songs you've composed, which are your favourites?
Oh, come on. I hate that question. I mean, they all have different... I mean, one of my favorite musicals and songs are from a show that Howard and I wrote that was never released, called Babe, about Babe Ruth. I mean, some great stuff in it. But it was a screwed up project in terms of the people who were involved, and we just said, nah, life's too short. Howard said life's too short. I said, okay. And so we did Little Shop instead. So it's always that marriage of the song and the time, and your last, and I mean this seriously, my last collaborator is the audience saying, I love that, or I don't like that at all. I mean, the songs I've written that I go, oh, God, I think it's so dumb, and people can't go, I love that. There's a song from Tangled called I Got a Dream, which I mean, it's deliberately one of the dumbest songs ever. But Glenn's lyrics are funny. And you got to go, wow, okay, I guess it works. And I wrote a whole oratorio called King David that's filled with some really successful, beautiful songs, but some that, you know, maybe are overly earnest in a way. It's also very, you know, very sensitive and delicate subject matter to begin with. So it's that marriage of concept, and you know, and yet you look at songs like A Whole New World or If I Can't Love Her. Tim Rice is just there's that Tim Rice sweet spot that is just so self-assured and powerful. So every collaboration is different.
Mm-hmm. I have another question you might not like, unfortunately. It's are there any lyrics from your own songs that stand out as personal favourites?
Any lyrics?
Yeah.
I mean, of my lyrics or of my
just any lyrics from any of your songs.
Oh my God. Okay, there's a new song in the Hercules musical that's coming out. I know it. I'm not being a shill. I'm being maybe a little bit. It's called To Be Human. And David Zippel wrote a gorgeous, because David is so known for writing very, very clever lyrics, but this is so moving and so beautiful. Oh my God, Howard. Oy. I'm making a tangent, if you don't mind. So Howard wrote a show called Smile with Marvin Hamlish. And Marvin passed away, you know, long after Howard did, but so they were both gone. And I was doing a D23 concert at Disneyland. And I thought, you know what? I want to include this song from Smile called Disneyland. Have any of you heard that song? Oh, it's so gorgeous. And I said, you know what, I want to sort of not make it my own, but at least put it in my hands and as if Howard and I wrote it, just so I can really present it as a tribute to Howard and Marvin. And so I went on the internet and I downloaded this lyric by Howard. And I put it in front of me and I started to set it. I said it, I started to practice it, you know, with the music that Marvin wrote, which was really pretty. And it just tore me apart, completely tore me apart emotionally, because I was sitting in front of a lyric by Howard. And it was, the essence of my collaborator was right there. So there's the specific lyrics, but there's also what comes through the lyrics is just the relationship. And it's so powerful. So And the specifics in that are so amazing, but that's the nature of Howard as a writer and as a lyricist. Glenn Slater has written some gorgeous songs. Jack Feldman, Tim Rice, Stephen Schwartz. Oh my God! I mean, oh God, out there. Oh, those lyrics. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard to. And of course, and some of the best are in maybe the throwaway songs, just gorgeous, fun, incredible lyrics. So I wrote a song with Benj Pasek and Justin Paul for the Aladdin movie called Speechless. And I thought Benj and Justin were beautiful lyrics for that. Anyway.
Thank you for that. We're now going to turn to audience questions. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. And Ashani will bring over the microphone. So just front row here, Ashani.
Hi, thank you so much. My question, you touched on this a little bit when you were speaking about structure and your approach to writing the music, and I'm wondering how it differs between composing for an animated film versus for a musical.
No difference.
There's no difference.
No difference. No, not really, no. I mean, there can be a difference only if you're working with a director who wants something different. And you sometimes adapt to them, but really, whether you're writing for stage or film or animation or even television, like in my Gallivant series, the difference will be in the length of the song. Maybe if you're writing for television, don't go past a minute and a half or 2 minutes, because forget it. They'll be. So yeah, form will have some, but. The differences are really, for me, are negligible, to be honest.
Okay, next question. Yes, just over here. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Thank you for your talk and your time. Sorry, I'll stand up. My question is, in a rapidly evolving musical landscape, how do you innovate your compositions to stay relevant to your modern and contemporary audience while preserving the classic essence that defines your work?
Oh, well, I mean, my adaptation to contemporary is very reluctant in a way, because I consider anything that is appropriate stylistically and new is contemporary, period. And I also, okay, so the best example I can give you is we're now working on the Tangled movie. And the director is a man named Michael Gracie, and he directed Greatest Showman and Better Man. Did any of you see either of those? Okay. He has such muscle in the way, so I know I'm going to adapt to what how he'd like to stage the numbers, and part of it will be the arrangers I bring in to work on it. So I'm totally open to that and enthusiastic about that. When I worked on the Mermaid movie, I was working with Lin-Manuel Miranda, and we had songs like Scuttlebutt, and it was just so much fun working with Lin. And I just gave him a melody, and he created this great rap over the melody. I think if I attempted to write a rap song, I mean, maybe I could somehow fake it, but I think it's better just collaborate with Lin and let him do what's right for him. Yeah, one of my least favorite things that if an executive says, "Oh yeah, Alan, we really want you to do something more contemporary." I feel like this, honestly, because it's, no offense, it's kind of, it strikes me as a cheap, dumb comment. That be more specific, please. Just to say contemporary. But I understand, by the way, honestly. I want to reach the audience that wants to wants to respond to what I write. If not, there'll be an audience for me and an audience for that. And if it's appropriate, then I'll write that, but only if it's really tickles my fancy to do that as well.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
By the way, I wrote you a letter, so if you come
What's
and
that?
pick it up. I wrote you a letter, so if you can come and pick it up on your
Can you tell? I can't.
She has a letter for you. Which
Oh, well,
you
let me
can
have
open
it.
up.
Sure. Thanks. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm wired up
And
here.
next question. Oh, there's so many
Yeah, she
hands.
missed having her question upstairs.
Oh, yes, you did, yeah. Please, front row.
Alan, thank you so much. It's actually an honour. And when we listen to your music, we see a final product that is of perfection. But obviously, in reality, there is dynamics when a film is being made between the director and the composer. So I guess maybe talk a little bit about that and some of your working with your favourite directors.
Well, why is it such a hard question, actually? I've loved, first of all, I can talk about the directors I've loved working with, but then if I don't mention the other ones I have loved working with, then I'll feel bad. And actually, there are ones I happen to love working with that delivered hits. There are directors I loved working with that unfortunately had disappointing results. And maybe there's so many variables. They're all, okay, live action films are totally a director's medium. So, when I was working on, Newsies, that was a Kenny Ortega movie. When I was working on Enchanted, it was a Kevin Lima. When I was working on the Beauty live action, that was, Beauty, Bill Condon. Thank you, honey. With Mermaid, it was Rob Marshall. And with Aladdin, it was Guy Ritchie. And you say, Guy Ritchie? And Guy is he's so individual. He was very skeptical about this whole musical thing. But the truth is, he made a very successful movie. And I ended up really enjoying working with him. But he also entrusted a lot over to me. So in animation, you don't really have that director thing because they usually have two directors and the company is very strong over it. On stage, Howard was an incredible director. Beauty was Rob Roth, right, sorry, forgive me. Doesn't get a lot of credit for that, but it was his idea to do that. Anyway, every situation is, the closest relationship is the lyricist. The book writer, who is often, incredibly accomplished and smart and successful in a musical, the book writer ends up having to kind of shoulder doing all the adaptation because the songwriters are kind of dominating the proceedings, not because they want to dominate, but because the songs need to drive it. And those are the closest relations. And then it depends, with the director and choreographer. Casey Nicolau, who did Aladdin and is doing Hercules, he knows exactly what he wants, and he's going to get what he wants. But he's also very fluid. You can have this incredible interaction with him. And that's what you want, is just someone who will collaborate. Sorry, I thumped over that question. But
Next question. At the back on the left.
On behalf of a young friend who has had his first professional musical performed in Salford and is about to cross the pond to Chicago. So he would like to know what you consider your most unappreciated song and why, and if I may, what you've learned about what is most important about choosing a story.
Well, I sort of said that the story thing I already kind of articulated before in the previous answer. In the reverse order. Because I don't know if I even know how to answer that other question, but I'll try if maybe if my brain could go so. The world of the story, then where it takes you to, where it takes me to. I'm going to assume that what emotionally goes, whoa, to me, will do the same for a certain percentage of the audience. So it's, how does that idea just hit me as far as the world of that story? Is it a unique world we haven't been to before? Does it have a musical vocabulary or possible musical vocabulary that will be just intoxicating to an audience and pull them in, and also moving and stimulating and all that? And then is it structured in the right way? Is there an unappreciated song? I gotta say, I have written really, really good songs that I just went, it's not right for the moment. And I don't want to disrespect those songs. It's just, especially in the medium I work in, the quality of a song is dependent on the context that it lives in. I have beautiful songs that I think haven't been heard. Doesn't mean they're unappreciated. I mean, I have songs in my trunk that are, as I said, like there are songs from the Babe musical. There's a ballad from Leap of Faith that I thought was, the few songs from Leap of Faith that I think are beautiful. But it was a show that really conceptually didn't work. I have songs that I think are garbage that work beautifully in the show that it's in, because it has to be that character in that spot to make sure this, having this character sing 3 times in a row, and it's what's necessary right there, but it does its job. I think it's a little subjective. So, and again, I really don't fall in love with any of my songs particularly. I can only think of 2 songs in shows that I wrote the music first, and I had no idea what they were for. One was a song that's in A Christmas Carol called God Blesses Everyone. And I just had this piece of music I wrote that went, and that became like the big song. I don't know if it, Chris, it's played here a couple times, I think. And then from Hunchback, it's, so, oh, the whole thing's falling apart, sorry. Both of those, in the case of Out There, I think those of you, I told you the story up, okay. Stephen Schwartz and Stephen and Carol came over for dinner at our house, and I had this clavier I just got, and I said, oh, I wrote this piece of music on it, just to show them how this clavier works. And he said, oh my God. We had just started work on Hunchback. He said, that's Out There. Look at it, Out There. And there it was. So that's very rare when that piece of music comes independent of that. And I have a little special, wink of appreciation towards those songs. But I think for me, I also feel like they live separate from me. They came through me, and now they have their own lives.
Unfortunately, we don't have any more time for questions from the audience, but we have one more question. Okay, I think I'm being told we have got time for more questions. Okay. Yes, just here.
I'll try to do shorter answers. I apologize, guys. Sorry. I'll go quick.
All right. This should be a quick one. So you mentioned that all the Menkens are dentists. Did you have any experiences or family members who inspired the dentist character in Little Shop?
Well, okay. I think this is a leading question, isn't it? I think maybe a lot of you know this by now. My dad was president of the New York chapter of the American Analgesia Society, a society of dentists that promote the use of nitrous oxide as safe. So when Howard, we couldn't figure out how Seymour could commit his first murder because in the movie, Seymour's on this bridge and he throws a bottle and it hits a bum in the head. The bum falls down and he feeds the bum to Audrey too. That's not going to work in a stage musical. So I thought, well, how about, we already have this sadistic dentist. We already merged that character from the movie and made him Audrey's boyfriend. And what if he likes to give himself nitrous oxide so he can really enjoy inflicting pain on the patient? So we thought, that's hilarious. We'll end the act with the dentist laughing himself to death on nitrous oxide. And I thought it was a great idea. And it was a great idea. I used to then, I would send my parents early on a cassette tape of the score to my newest show. And I sent it to them. And I remember getting a message on my answering machine. And it goes, "Hi, Alan, it's Mom. we heard the tape." Okay, click. And I said, uh-oh. And Janet said, "Oh, I think he's just so moved." I said, "Oh, no, I don't think so." I said, "Mom, well, how would you feel if you devoted your life to promoting the use of nitrous oxide and say blah, blah, blah." Anyway. But by the way, another interesting, my dad, when he would give me nitrous oxide as a kid, and I like nitrous oxide, I gotta say. If you ever had it, I recommend it. He would always say, "Are you ready to go on the magic carpet ride?" I swear to God. Anyway.
Okay, next question.
Next question.
Second row, is it?
Yes, hello. Hi, Alan.
Hi.
Okay. Objectively speaking, you're a genius.
What?
Let's say. Objectively speaking, you're a genius.
Oh.
Let me go. You are studied across the world. You have maybe introduced new techniques. You have mixed a lot of things, as you mentioned, repetitions, but maybe like no one else did before. But my question would be, what do you think that it makes you a genius?
Okay, I'll tell you. I'm not that smart. I'm smart enough to know when I should be led by this brain and when I should let this brain take a leap and go with something from my gut and then let this brain kind of then look at it and go, it's okay. I think I'm blessed that I recognized my deficiencies and learned how to use them as an asset, in a way. I hated to practice. I just wanted to make up music. I hated school, but I just wanted to make up music. I just wanted to make music. And I thought, God, I'm so lazy. What's going to happen with me? I don't know what, And at a certain point, I just said, I have to do this. So I'm going to be miserable if I don't do this. I'm just going to do this. And my lack of filter with being able to write and then throw it out and write came from, all those hours of just doing it and doing it and doing it. It became very engaged with my emotions, and I've had amazing collaborators. So I think I'm a craftsman, and I think I've had amazing associations with brilliant people, and I've benefited from that. Genius is a weird, I don't know what it even means, really. it's just, you know, if you have a gift, share it, you know. And I don't know, but thank you for saying it. But I don't know.
Okay, at the back over there. At the back, yeah.
Despite being filmed in Bristol and a largely British cast, Gallivant has never been released in the UK. Is Not the Worst Thing Ever a love story of our times?
Maybe Glenn Slater, what a great lyric. Oh my God. Maybe you're not the worst thing ever. I can't, do you remember the lyric? Because I can't remember it that well. Yeah, I'm very, actually, I got a video from a couple getting married and they sang Maybe You're Not the Worst Thing Ever at their wedding. The thing about Gallivant, there was a lot of good songs, but it was such a comedy series. Almost every song had to be pulling, you know, hitting the funny bone. And so that, I'm actually looking at doing a new series with Dan Fogelman and Glenn Slater and some of the people I worked on Gallivant with, which will be a little more comedy and drama if I have the time to do it. But yes, I was really proud of Gallivant. Really had a great time working on it. Television is like boot camp. It's so hard because it's got to be so fast. And, you know, 2-minute song. Oh my God, that song goes on forever. Can't you cut it down? You know, okay, I got it down to 1 minute and 20 seconds. All right, that's better, thank you. But we did it.
Okay, unfortunately that is it for questions from the audience, but there's one final question from me, and it's a question that we ask every speaker that comes here.
Yes.
And it's, if there's one thought you would like to leave the audience with today, what would it be?
Well, I guess I've said this a few times, as relates to how I approach songwriting. I mean, I guess we could approach our lives the same way, which is always know that you are in the context of something bigger than yourself. That we're at our best when it's not about us. I mean, obviously we want to enjoy ourselves, but we're at our best when we're devoting ourselves to something bigger than ourselves in a good way. And I guess that's it. I don't know. Love is the answer. I don't know. Yeah, it's one of the things I love about what I do is that in the combination of listening to and working with other people and letting them affect us and then letting us affect them and getting the best result we can come to together, that's where the best things happen. So being selfless is the most selfish thing you can do, in a way, to get the best results.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And so that concludes the interview. I think I speak for the room when I say it's been a very special evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
That's just for me too. Thank you, guys. Should I play them out? No.
Oh, yes, yes.
What else you got to play? What else you got to play? No, I can't remember the lyrics to that. Oh, now I'm stuck.
We'll take anything.
Say your favorite song.
My favorite song. Well, I played out that. Well,
Help us.
does anybody know I See the Light?
Yeah.
All those days watching from the windows, all those years outside looking in, all that time never even knowing just how blind I've been. Now I'm here looking in the starlight. Now I'm here suddenly I see, standing so clear where I'm meant to reason why I'm here and I can do this. Tell them.